Welcome to Book Club for Movies, everybody, for the week of June 28th. I am Ryan Miller, and he's Matt Amberg, and we're Book Club.
We're for movies.
Where we watch one movie a week and invite you to do the same and contact us on the internet or through the email
for movies
at podcast@bookclubformovies.com or Facebook and Twitter. This week we are, this week, Matt, I have done the most watching of movies, the most reading of watching of movies that I've ever done for any show. And I think I tried to put it up against the Marvel show we did, where I kind of just blew through my abbreviated list of Marvel movies before we did the Avengers, Infinity War, Endgame.
Yes.
I watched a lot of movies for that. I won't lie. I didn't do a lot of reading, so I think the reading puts this over the top. That's what this show.
This is proving once again that you are a college graduate. You have been educated somewhere
by Wikipedia,
and also the internet, which the previously mentioned internet also.
I did previously mention.
Yeah, I just want to note that we're staying on brand. And
it's the Godzilla show, which ostensibly Godzilla vs. Kong was the most recent. We're going to probably spend a bit of time on that. I don't know. In fact, this is a good question. I don't know how many of these other movies you have also seen, so I don't know how much of any other talk besides King Kong versus Godzilla we're going to do. So I'm going to ramble off my list here. You tell me if you've also seen it recently, or even maybe if you've just also seen it ever.
I'll let you know if I've also seen it, because
okay.
let me I do want to get ahead of this a little bit. I was only able to watch 2 other Godzilla movies.
Okay.
And I think you may understand why. But for the past 3.5 weeks,
right,
we had a intruder in the home. There were hostages being held, and
an invasion of sorts.
It was an invasion of sorts, and it made watching movies nigh on impossible. We got next to nothing done, and.
Oh wait, has your mother-in-law left?
She has.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. I was going to ask about her movie taste, because I figured that was
important. Well, there are none. The tastes are all, everything has too much sex in it. That's an animated feature from Disney, and it is, Fievel Goes West. She's like, too much sex. No.
Well, I might side with her on that one.
It's a sexy, you know what? That is a sexy.
That mouse.
An American Tail, they're really focusing on the tail in that movie.
It's. That's good. So, okay. The movies I did get to watch, this is going to be a long build-up for whatever the one... Oh, no, you watched 2 additional movies?
Correct.
Okay, all right. So this will be a long build-up to the 2 that maybe we'll see if I also watched. The original Godzilla from 1954.
Yes.
That is one. Okay, okay. Godzilla Raids Again, the immediate sequel, 1955. No. Okay, so I did a side here as we were gearing up to watch the 1962 versus King Kong. I watched the original King Kong from 1933, which I mentioned, and I feel like you've seen recently enough or knew enough about, because we started to go off a little bit there. So
yeah, it's delightful. I haven't seen it in a minute, but yeah.
Okay. We did work up to the original Godzilla versus King Kong from 1962.
Did not watch that one. No.
Did not. Okay. Versus Mothra, 1964.
Definitely. And actually, I did. My other movie is kind of nonsense.
Don't ruin it.
Well, okay. You've already passed a year my movie came out, so
how did I do that? Okay, what was the one?
So I took a sidetrack also a little bit, because I watched 1961's or the original Mothra, which is not technically a Godzilla movie.
Yeah, which I didn't know. Oh gosh, so I've been on this trip now for months, you'll know, because we've been saying we'll do the show, or I've been deleting that part of the show where we say we'll do the show, but this has been brewing. Back when it started, I didn't know that a lot of these other monsters came from other franchises. Basically, Toho, the company behind the original Godzilla, created this kaiju genre, And whereas they did try to capitalize real quick on the success of the first with that initial sequel, Godzilla Raids Again, the kaiju genre basically birthed from there. So they were doing lots of offshoots like Mothra that didn't come back to be versus Godzilla until later. So yeah, I did not watch the original Mothra, but I did watch the versus Mothra. Okay, well, keeping going real quick, versus Ghidorah, or actually no, I'm sorry, it's not Ghidorah. It's just it's Ghidorah's first movie, but Godzilla's in it.
Yeah,
King Ghidorah, the three-headed monster, or something like that.
Right.
1964. Versus Mechagodzilla, 1974.
That was my favorite when I was a kid, by the way.
Okay, I could see that.
When I was a kid, that was totally like two of my favorite movies that I loved watching back to back were Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla and Moonraker. It was one of my favorite Bond movies because
I wouldn't have guessed that
because
one,
it goes into space and it's got Jaws and it's stupid. But it's like
very true.
Those two movies were so, to me, I don't know why Mechagodzilla to me has always been the movie that was like that's the one where I'm always like you've gone too far, but I still love it.
I mean, the why is too obvious to me. It's a big toy. It's literally a toy. I mean, Godzilla was kind of a toy before, obviously, because it's a, the special effects went that way, but Mechagodzilla is literally like that toy. It's like a Godzilla toy, and they're like Godzilla versus the Godzilla toy.
I swear they built the thing before it was like the original. They were like going to make an actual mechanical Godzilla, and they were like, here's the inside of it, and they went, nope, that's it. Let's call it Mechagodzilla. We're done. to product.
And the other thing I didn't know about a lot of these movies is that very quickly, in fact, versus King Kong from 1962 was lots of fun story that I'm not going to get to for a bunch of this stuff. But essentially, in 1955, they rushed that sequel. And yes, the kaiju genre was born, but they didn't touch Godzilla again until versus Kong in 1962. So it took kind of a 7-year hiatus. This movie came about by any number of behind the backs and whatever, but eventually turned, I think it was originally King Kong versus Frankenstein, which I don't know how that works, actually.
I love it, though. That is a mind bender.
And I think the dude that was pushing it, or that came up the original treatment, was actually Willis O'Brien. So the stop motion guy from King Kong that, had his protege in Harryhausen. And I tried to find a connection to Selleck, but couldn't necessarily.
Tom Selleck?
But still. Yes.
Did they all have mustaches?
Gosh dang it. But I didn't know, sorry, what I'm trying to get to is that very quickly with the kaiju genre, they realized that, kids love this stuff. Like they George Lucased this thing real darn quick, like quicker than George Lucas, it seems like even. And yes, most of the Godzilla movies, especially from the Showa era, which goes up till 1984, are kid focused.
Sure, definitely.
In other words,
yeah,
silly, extremely silly.
But for some reason, even when I was younger, it was like those two movies were the steps above where I was like, well, this is just stupid, but I like it, but it's not really like the other movies. And I have no idea why. I don't know why. I guess it's because I just hate the inventions that man creates.
Very good. Yeah, that's not all of them, and I think for the most part, I kind of mainlined the more serious ones, but absolutely, yeah, there's quite, and I was also happy to realize it wasn't a breakdown or a lost in translation type thing, where I'm like, oh man, Japanese movies are silly. No, they were making them for kids. They were supposed to be like, etc. So, versus Kong, the original from 1962, very silly. If you're going to watch that for any background on the most recent one, you're going to be maybe not as disappointed as you could be, but mildly unrelated to the most current one. Anyway, this is all to say that I continued with the end of the Showa era, 1984. My gosh, the next one is the Heisei era, which I guess follows the whatever emperor was going on at the time, but also very conscious creative breaks that usually coincided with flagging ticket sales, So 1984, they rebooted the thing with just Godzilla Elsewhere, Return of Godzilla, which is essentially just a sequel to the 1954 original. They did that thing where they, got rid of all the other ones and were like, this is the sequel.
Right.
We're starting over. And I I will say words as they come to mind as we go through the actual movie we're doing, but I'm just going to keep listing. Sorry.
I am then also going to say words.
Oh, okay. Deal. We've struck an
accord.
An accord.
Parlay.
Much like the accord that was struck. No, I don't. It doesn't work out that well. I continued with Versus Biolante in 1989. Hoping you've seen that. Hoping you've seen any of the Heisei era, actually.
That one doesn't sound familiar.
So Biolante came right after the 1984 reboot. It's the sequel. And I say sequel, like the continuity is tenuous for a lot of these.
Sure.
You know, monsters seem to exist in some sort of continuity, you know, but the methods that they use to defeat them never carry over for the most part. They're never like, hey, remember when we did this and it worked completely? No, there's a new thing. That breaks down a little bit with the Heisei era, and 1989 as a sequel, they start to remember some things. In fact, the Super X3 keeps coming back. It's this kind of spaceship they've invented numerous times that has success against Godzilla, which here's the funny thing. I'm really going to keep saying words here. It gets weird to me when the humans become effectual, I think, is the strange thing, because that was always, especially with the original, the thing was that you could never do anything to stop Godzilla.
Right.
Like he was the A-bomb, you know, and they've said many times in interviews, and specifically, actually, no, it's in the movie, you know, Godzilla is the bomb and there's nothing you can do. Like he just kind of runs rampant. He's even indifferent a lot of the times, even though he looks evil and they, you know, destruction is the theme, but there's nothing you can do to stop him. So it's weird that in these later ones, the humans to some extent have a weapon that they keep returning to in this. I think they do it 3 times. Actually, so I did skip around. I haven't watched all of the movies yet. And in fact, I stopped after the Heisei era because I found out I didn't find out, but I was going to skip the Millennium era because I heard that was not received super well. But in reading up more about it, it's so... I'm just going to keep going. It's kind of the postmodern thing. It's Japan. It's Toho, again, the studio, doing the thing kind of that we do, or existing in the era kind of that we do. Okay. So
I can't wait for you to edit this. This episode may never actually come out. You have
all of this out.
You have so much information. Your head is like just
it's so true, dude. I've done, even just this morning, all I've been doing is reading, and it's in there, and I'm like, it's all memory store. I'm like, if I don't get rid of it now, it's leaving forever for no reason at all.
You got to disseminate. Go.
But if you think about film very roughly and poorly thought out as, you know, entering the modern era when stuff got realistic, you know, instead of studio-like, and then entering the postmodern era where it got very self-referential, you know, think about any Arnold Schwarzenegger movie or any of those one-liners, you know,
right,
which then relates to us. And again, I'm using all of these incorrectly, I'm sure, to some extent, as postmodernists, where we look at that stuff and be like, man, wasn't that cool? And in other ways, try and either emulate or redo or consciously try to create what was almost subconsciously created back then, or react against a reaction.
Sure.
So the Millennium era is essentially that. It's Toho being like, okay, I mean, just listen to the titles of
Godzilla Goes to the Beach.
Essentially, like it's Toho realizing that and embracing it and going for it. So while I've heard that a lot of the movies haven't been received super well, I'm kind of like, I gotta.
Yeah, you're like, they will be received very well here.
I was gonna skip it and go straight to Shin Godzilla, but I'm like, no, I stopped at the Heisei period.
I love, one of the things that I love about Godzilla, though, is that it is like a cultural touchstone in so many different ways, you know, for film, for Japan, for actors, for the characters, for cinema goers. Like, it's a crazy thing that Godzilla is, you know, the monster version of James Bond, right? He just like, he's just forever.
Ooh, that's good.
He's forever. Like, there always will be, Godzilla will always come back. Godzilla will always be rebooted. And we're always going to get some we'll always get some children's version of it in some cartoon form. We'll always get some crazy over the top American version of it. And we'll always get something that's like
me started.
That's like Shin Godzilla, which is kind of the throwback, I guess, more to a more serious but well attempted movie, you know?
Yeah, everything I see about that is kind of this reclamation of sorts, which makes me so excited for it. I mean, it's done by the freaking Anno, the Evangelion guy. Neon Genesis. Like, I'm very excited for that. I didn't watch it this time. But yeah, with the Millennium Era, check out these titles. Starting with the 1999 film Godzilla 2000.
Yes. Yes.
Godzilla, Mothra, and King Ghidorah, Giant Monsters All Out Attack is the title of a film.
Very good title.
And then I've heard...
That is an incredibly concise title also.
I can only imagine what's actually in there. And then Godzilla Final Wars, which supposedly ends out the Millennium Era, but includes such monsters as Monster X, Kaiser Ghidorah, which I don't even know who that is, Rodan, Mothra, Gigan, King Caesar, Anguirus, Manila, Kumonga, Kamakuras, Manda, Hedora, Ebira. It's got to be insane, even if it's horrible. And
got to be worth watching.
Also contains the monster Zilla, which, if I understand correctly, is what they call the Godzilla from the 1998 American movie, which is a whole nother thing.
It wasn't Luc Besson. It was
Roland Emmerich.
Roland Emmerich. That's who it was.
Yeah, but
with starring
no,
Matthew.
You're thinking of Jean Reno is in there though. Yeah.
Starring Matthew Broderick. With Bridget Fonda, I think, was in there.
The entire cast of The Simpsons.
Hank Azaria, I was going to say. I know he's in there. Harry Shearer's
Smith,
in there.
I believe. Nancy Cartwright, maybe.
The Yardley is in there. Yeah.
But so this is the thing that's such an interesting story. Like Roland Emmerich and friends was basically like, I don't care. Like Toho gave them notes and somehow still gave them the rights, but they just crapped all over the idea of Godzilla in the most American way. And I kind of enjoy that film in the way that you can, you know.
Oh,
but
how is that?
It's such a
Can you give me an extremely detailed explanation of how you can enjoy that film?
No.
Okay. I have called you out. I was not gonna. I let a lot of your nonsense go, Ryan. That's not what I was going to let happen. Matthew Broderick killed somebody, and he does not deserve to be appreciated for that movie at all.
But true fans of Godzilla, I think, might even call themselves G fans.
Oh, good.
Call that Godzilla Zilla, or the acronym GINO, G-I-N-O, for Godzilla in name only. Yeah. Because everybody hates him so much. So apparently the Godzilla, or just Zilla, as he's actually called in the film in Godzilla Final Wars, is that Godzilla, and they kill him off in like 3 minutes or something like that. It's a kind of a revenge, apparently. Sounds great. I didn't watch any of those movies, so stay tuned for my actual opinion. The reason, oh my gosh, so many parentheticals back here. I was hopeful that you had seen so many from the Heisei era, starting in 1984. The ones I've seen, Biollante, I then continued
that
with
one,
the last,
okay.
So I skipped a few.
So Biollante is like a giant swamp thing, right? Like it's a giant weed thing.
It's a plant,
right?
It's a rose at first, yeah.
Yeah. I have seen it. I have not seen it recently, but I definitely saw that.
Okay, so the reason I would recommend at least the two I've seen, Biollante and Destroya, for you is because it's essentially...
I've definitely seen Destroya too.
Okay. Number one, they're pretty good entries. Like, they're pretty fun entries, kind of impossibly so, for wildly different reasons. I think Destroya is actually a legitimate and good tribute and film. This is the thing. When the Godzilla movies kind of jump the shark, they do at the expense of character motivations and plot, not even devices. Like, they just don't care about humans acting like humans and people doing things because of things.
And that continues.
They are wild in that way. Destroya kind of gets back to that. Like, you can tell it was made by a filmmaker or written by a person who's like, no, why would he do this? Oh, he would do this because of that. And then they show that,
Sure.
So for that reason, I'd say check out Biollante and Destroya, even though, still strangely, Biollante was, I believe, the product of a writing contest. You know, and how much they adapted the winner's story, I don't know, but the winner was some dentist from Tokyo, I believe.
Isn't that the plot of that movie by Jared Hess? The what's it called?
Gentleman Broncos?
Gentleman Broncos.
Oh, I guess, yeah. That's
Isn't
funny. I
that
didn't
kind of the
remember
plot?
movie when I said the movie. Possibly, sure. It makes about as much sense. Biollante is interesting because like the last 10 minutes of that film is just, I said what so many times. Like the director wanted to direct a Bond film, but he had to do that instead. Little Shop hit is apparently why they went with the giant rose. It's actually
perfect
a genetic experiment between a scientist's daughter, like spirit of his daughter.
Sure,
how that
of
figures
course.
in genetically, I'm not sure. And Godzilla cells, and then plant cells. So it's. But the reason I'm telling you to check these out is because it's Toho going toe to toe with some of the actual creature features of the States at the time. And they're a little behind, like you're not going to see much Dawn of the Dead like stuff, but it is kind of part and parcel. Like you're going to see some of the inspirations of that stuff.
Sure.
Like the actual practical effects got steadily better with every movie I watched and are at their peak, certainly with a lot of these from the Heisei era, because like freaking Destroya came out in 95. Like Jurassic Park had already happened 3 years ago, like
right.
They're still doing guys in suits. They're still doing practical effects at this point. So
right.
They're pretty darn good. Like they're easily appreciable in these films. So that at least is why I think you would be super interested in those films.
Yeah. I will definitely give those a rewatch.
Yeah. Let me know. Of course.
Shin is honestly the next one that I want to watch.
Yes. If you're as excited as I am, do we want to, I know not for the next month, we'll talk about why not, but do we want to just do a show on Shin Godzilla? Is that too much after this?
It might be too much after this.
Okay. All right. That's fine.
It might be, but we get, but maybe
I'm out of control.
But we could do a rest of the show on it.
Okay. All right. I'm glad you're here to pull me back. This is good. This is why
I want you to watch the rest of them.
Great at this.
I want you to watch the rest of them, but you gotta.
I will.
You gotta pace yourself.
I do.
I'm concerned.
Look at me.
I'm concerned. You all you talk about nowadays is Godzilla and Scrubs. I don't know when we swap places.
Are you regretting that yet? The amount of texts I send you about Scrubs?
Every time you send me something, I'm like, Beth, Ryan's at this part, and she's like, yeah. And I'm like, I know, it's so great. And I'm like, I ignore the fact that she's like, yeah, whatever, and I just act like she is as excited as I am.
I'll keep them coming.
Yeah, no, I love it. It's great. It is. I do it every time. I'm like, we just talked about the last text that you sent me, and I was like, I was like, I can't wait for
it was me.
I can't wait for this arc to happen, and then he's gonna get to this part. And oh my gosh, I forgot about when Riley has this part happen, and then JD's got to do. Oh, it's so cool. Yeah.
Wow. In a way, I'm surprised it's only taken us 20-ish minutes, depending on what I cut out to get this far. But even still, before we get into Godzilla versus King Kong, the most recent one,
Steven Stills.
Possibly.
No, never
at this point, like I said, I'm out of control. I'm dissociated myself. So I want to start with the current run still, because I did rewatch those as well and had new thoughts on every single one, because I had seen the Godzilla from 2014 before. I had seen Skull Island before. I had never seen King of Monsters. So I'm actually, did you watch King of Monsters?
I didn't.
Dang it. Okay.
I do want to watch that, and I'm looking forward to hearing what you have to say about it.
Yeah, me too.
Okay.
No, I didn't. That came out bad. That wasn't because of the film. In fact, I was disappointed because I can't talk about it necessarily right now with you.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Looking forward to talking about it more. Spoiler, I'll tell you, I think I liked it better than a lot of people I respect did.
Very good.
Yeah. But it's an interesting discussion, especially after having watched all of the ones before that. So yes, okay. We'll save that for when you do watch it again, to be continued. We will consider ourselves having wrote in about this show to talk about King of Monsters.
I love that. I might actually just do that just for fun. Just make sure my email still works.
So just tell me then your thoughts on the 2014 Godzilla film, from Mr. I always get him. It's not Gareth Evans. It's Gareth Edwards. Is
Gareth
that right?
Edwards. Yeah, I get those two mixed up so much.
I'm going to look while you tell me what you thought about that film. I'm going to look up his name to make sure we got it right. How about
I
that?
remember like that movie was, I liked it, but it was also a disappointment. And I remember like being super annoyed by the whole Bryan Cranston thing, that they made a big deal out of him and he's gone in the first 10 minutes of the movie. Like Juliette Binoche, I feel like she doesn't even play into the movie very much after that as the wife. And then it just focuses on Aaron Taylor Johnson, who's
Quicksilver. Everyone will recognize as Quicksilver.
Yeah, and he's just not
the only one.
He's not interesting in the movie. There's nothing. I do not remember his arc other than I want to say he was going to get his sister or somebody out of where the path of Godzilla.
Do you remember who his wife is? No, it's his. Yes, you're right. Actually, I feel like he's trying to come home to his wife, but
or maybe he's trying to go home. Yeah, I don't remember.
Is that all he's doing?
I honestly
watched this so recently. Do you remember who his wife was?
I do not.
It's freaking Scarlet Witch, dude. It's Elizabeth Olsen.
Elizabeth Olsen.
Yes, it's his sister from the other movie. So
this is getting weird.
It's retroactively off-putting, but
it's a Luke and Leia situation.
Yes, the classic Luke and Leia situation here. But it's not even that there's no chemistry, because actually I think they might achieve that strangely, but it's just boring. Like there's the human interest part of that half of the movie is a snooze.
It's boring. But I do remember I was very happy with the overall. I personally was happy with the overall look of Godzilla. I liked the bits that we got with him, the fight scene, and it was cool to see the fire, the beams and all that stuff. And it was cool to see it all back on the big screen. And there was care done there. You can see that there was some care for the monster, but it's like, you guys, I will never understand people who feel the need to ruin a perfectly good monster movie with people stories that we don't care about. Like, I understand the why that it's like that studios can't possibly see it any other way, that if we don't have a major star in here doing something, nobody's going to identify with anything. Look, I get that from you have been told this your whole life, and we have been fed that nonsense our whole lives. But it is my estimation that if you cut out 98% of all the human stuff, have just enough in there to show, okay, here is scale, and then focus on monsters fighting each other, that movie gonna be a success.
So
people gonna love it.
Okay.
People gonna say, this movie good. This movie not wasting time with Aaron Taylor Johnson. Who care about him?
You're turning into some sort of Godzilla rant. Yeah. No. Okay. I do think that film is a weird studio conglomeration. Like there is absolutely something there.
That feels like three different movies. Like to my memory, I remember being like, this is three different movies. This is a movie that had that started as a real Godzilla movie with Bryan Cranston. Then somebody came in and said, there's not nearly enough human action going on here. Throw something else in. Okay, here, we'll do that. And then the last part of the movie was somebody going, I want to make monster kill monster and fight big things.
But this is the thing, because it's a Godzilla movie, obviously there's a part of me that's like, yeah, monsters. But I also agree with you that I think this was the first, especially in relation to the Roland Emmerich one, the first time a Godzilla was made in the States with respect for the source material. And that source material features mostly human interactions. Like there's I get the first two mixed up a little bit because they are very similar.
They're basically the same movie.
Speaking of Raids Again and the original from 1954, it's mostly human stuff.
Of course.
There's an engagement. Gosh dang it. Yes, there's a fiance. There's that. There's the whole family, the scientist's family, because there's a scientist at the very beginning who doesn't want to kill Godzilla. You know, like that's all been there from the very beginning in these films.
Definitely.
And to varying success, especially later on, it gets so. I mean, obviously they had to keep coming up with different ideas, but it's like they kept jumping their own shark, sometimes within the same film, numerous times. Like, even by the time we just get to, my gosh, I mean, I told you 62 is silly, Motown silly, but it's
back again.
But it's not off the like, it's just King Kong versus Godzilla, right? This is believable to some extent, even just by Mothra, which is, I think, one of the better ones. Like, the story, you actually still feel for the characters and stuff like that. But
I think Mothra is best.
Mothra comes from freaking Infant Island, a full of tiny people.
Yes, he's got fairies that speak for him.
It's already bizarre, and then it just gets crazier from then on out. Obviously, Mechagodzilla, but freaking Ghidorah is, I mean, since Ghidorah's from space, I guess it makes some sense, but there's a princess whose rival faction tanks her airplane, but then she's inhabited by a girl from Venus, so she becomes a prophet as she tells what Ghidorah is going to do, because Ghidorah killed her Venus society. It's
the Venus Society. I love it.
I might have made that part up.
No, I'm into it. That should be the title of something.
I might have made that name.
It should definitely be the title of this episode, The Venus Society.
The Venus Society. Yep, women go to Venus. How come we just go for candy bars? That seems, everything about that rhyme doesn't ring true.
And I hate it because it's like the worst candy bar. Like, I don't want that.
See, it gets silly. I don't remember where I was going with all this. So with the American reboot 2014, like, I don't even take issue with all of the people stuff. I just think they chose the wrong people stuff. Like, if it had been, in fact, I guess Cranston is on record as having said, if it was just him and his son kind of working his way across the states, following or chasing,
that would have been great.
Well, yeah, it would have been better than what they came up with for.
Yeah.
But this is the thing I think I discovered the second time around with that new original 2014 Godzilla, which I didn't love the first time around, but seeing it now for kind of that weird studio conglomeration that I think it is, I think I can catch, it's, by the way, Gareth Edwards is the name of the director.
Good. He's the Rogue One guy, I think, right?
Yes, and that's kind of why I went back, because after seeing Rogue One, I was like, oh, I number one, want to see more from this dude. In fact, I have Monsters queued up. Did you ever see that?
Love Monsters, man. That movie is
right.
super fun. That movie is cool.
Is that a show? I'm out of control.
Actually, no, that could be, because that it does. It's interesting. That's a movie that is. I think it's a phenomenal flick, especially for the budget that they had, because it does not look like it's budget. When you look at the budget and then you see that movie, they're like, he knew how to make a. He knew how to make. Okay, you know how the Mist made the monsters look.
Sure.
This is similar in how much they show the monsters, kind of, but it's way higher quality. They look much better.
Right. Yeah, super excited for that. But also after Rogue One, I was like, man, okay, I think I can maybe understand the 2014 Godzilla a little bit better, and I think I did get it this time around. Like, I think I kept expecting an action movie, and I think the studio probably kept wanting an action movie. It's not an action movie.
Which is, when you see Monsters, you will totally, everything you're saying right now is that movie. Like, and now that I'm thinking about it, I remember seeing Monsters, and then we had seen Godzilla, and the similarities in how those movies are put together, that totally makes sense.
Okay. Yeah, I guess we'll come back when I get to Monsters, but I enjoyed the 2014 one a lot more this time around, because I did think I could see what Edwards was trying to do a little bit better. Anywho, Skull Island, also one I did enjoy maybe more than the 2014 the first time around.
Liked that one a lot.
But I think I enjoyed it more this time around.
John C. Reilly is kind of the gem of that movie, and he does. I mean, he's only in it for a bit.
What about Hiddleston though, dude? I love that he shows up and is like, "I'm an action star," nails it, and it was like, well, I guess I don't have to do that again because I did so well this time. And
it's good.
So I watched most of these with my family, by the way. Let's just say that my daughter's iPad screen very quickly changed to Tom Hiddleston from that movie after we watched that movie.
Oh, your daughter's got a crush.
And boy, are we loving Loki. So, yeah. Love Skull Island, but also liked it a bunch the first time around. Even though at that point I feel like I heard and got some of the hype and was like, I don't know. Like, I've I've seen Peter Jackson's King Kong. I'm not that into it.
Right, right.
Couldn't have been more wrong.
Like, Skull Island didn't take itself as seriously even as I think the 2014 movie feels like it did to me. Where and I think that's my problem with a lot of the human stories that are put together in these movies now, is that they're so melodramatic and like they're not silly in the way that I want them to be silly. Like it takes itself way too seriously for a movie about a gigantic bloody lizard. And I get it. Like, that would be the most horrifying thing if you're just sitting in your office. Spoiler alert, by the way, at one point there's just, hey, Godzilla's outside. We're going to stay in this giant building eating our dinner. And then you see them rushing out the thing in Godzilla versus Kong. And I was like, why are people just eating dinner while there's a monster coming at them? What is happening? But it's like there's a certain level of melodrama I want. And then the other thing is that they pad the movie out with too much of it. And I feel like even like when you go back to the original Godzilla, those stories, like they're the melodrama, they're like the way they're set, it's not overly serious. It's not taking itself seriously, not in the way that we're getting now anyways.
No, it's such an interesting conversation, and I haven't given it enough thought because I did want to figure out why, again, some of these older films that I probably enjoyed a lot more than the later ones do focus on the people a lot. I feel like in a lot of situations where I would just be like, okay, let's keep going. But I don't. Like, right. I'm into it, and it adds to the film, and it adds to what the monster does later on. So yeah, I haven't given it enough thought. I would be, especially compared to what we're seeing now.
And I think part of maybe what it is now too is that the movies, and yeah, I'm gonna be the old man yells at cloud here, I guess, potentially. Like, I don't at all mind the big budget Destructo Fest, but I think that's kind of one of the things that is missing from those other films. Like they had to pull back on what they could show and do, right? Like everything, the man in suit thing, stepping on what is obviously, a model. We don't have to do that anymore. And I think that is also something that impacts how those stories are told and even what we're getting out of them, because
sure.
It's the stories, instead of like, all right, talking about Kong versus Zilla God here.
Just the
real
first
quick
hint of it. Okay, all right.
It's
just real quick going to talk about the one we're essentially supposed to be doing the show about. Okay,
yeah,
that's fine.
Well, because I think this is the overall issue is that, like, in those original Godzilla movies, like, you talk about the family aspect of it, right? Because of the way that those films are put together, I don't know what it is. I think it's the lack of melodrama and the way that they're just that they've got less, that less is more in those situations. I am far more interested and care about those characters than I am in any of these movies from 2014 on. Like, none of those characters matter to me, and I don't. And in this in Godzilla versus Kong, like, it's the same thing. I did not care about any of the characters outside of, I liked the concept of the relationship between the little girl and Kong. That was actually pretty cool, and I thought there was a lot of good stuff there. But the overall with, like, everybody else, like Alexander Skarsgård, I don't remember any of, all of what you're doing is nonsense to me. Like, the whole movie is it's nonsense. It's nonsensical. This movie doesn't. It's stupid. It's
no. I think we're right to get into it now. Number one, it's been easily probably 30 minutes, but also we said we're going to save King of Monsters till later. I want you to, when you do see King of Monsters, think about the cinematics from Skull Island. I don't know if it's the same guy, but also if you remember the trailer for King of Monsters really promised like some. Do you remember the trailer for Dead Island before the game came out? Remember that? And then you got the game Dead Island from that trailer, right? I want you to think about the cinematics from Skull Island, which are, in my opinion, exceptionally gorgeous.
I remember that trailer like that. There was some beautiful fight scenes in there. The stuff where
then the King of Monsters trailer, I feel like, was taken from some of that, but also in very reverenced terms.
Sure.
And it's a conversation. In fact, it's good. We'll continue the conversation when we do get King of Monsters, because it might really culminate there. This tension between big dumb monster movie and serious, or how serious it takes itself, or some of that stuff we've been talking about. So be continued when we talk about that. Basically, I'll be curious in your opinion where and if or how it delivers on that initial King of Monsters trailer in some way or another.
Sure.
There you go. So, versus King Kong. Godzilla versus King Kong, the most recent one, came out in the year 2021 to all, I guess, did this go theaters? I know it was HBO Max, another one of those.
Yeah, I believe so.
I guess. Okay. Which, another movie, they do happen every now and then.
Yes.
I think maybe would have benefited from a theater viewing because it's so big. The big things sometimes.
Yeah, the scale's a little off.
Anyway, a sequel to definitely King of Monsters, ostensibly Skull Island, even though actually there is some video from Skull Island.
They directly reference because she also directly references whatever I can't remember what they're called, but the things that John C. Reilly gives them a name, Skull Draggers or Skull.
Right,
whatever they're called. She Millie Bobby Brown's character straight up references that when they're in the weird tram thing. Right,
because they're going through all the different monster or kaiju or whatever, and they're included in that list.
Yeah.
Which in Skull Island, I just think it's funny because I never, besides the kind of, where was the bumper? Was it on the end of Skull Island? I feel like it might have been on the end of Godzilla 2014 where they hinted at Godzilla versus Kong already.
I feel like it was, I think it was that first one. Oh,
almost seems
maybe
impossible.
Not.
What, did they really?
Maybe not. Maybe it was Skull Island. Maybe it was, that's where they
might have been Skull Island. Okay. I just feel like it was very less in the cards. This almost seemed like another one of those Universal Dark Universe things where, like, we're going to create a shared universe, and everybody else was like, no, you're not.
And then Tom Cruise said, but what about me?
Extra no. Continued no.
Go back to Mission Impossible, dingus.
I guess it's neither here nor there, the extent to which they saw this coming or meant to do this, but it's here. And I'm going to say, for the most part, I did not mind Godzilla versus King Kong.
Okay.
The most recent one from 2021.
Sure.
I like the things you said you liked. In fact, I like Skarsgård as well for the most part, if only for some of the left turns that his character takes, because his character is motivated by his brother who died, who also believed in Hollow Earth. So he's kind of the last one. So rich guy allows him to go to Hollow Earth. I kept expecting at some point for him to either turn or have to decide between his legacy or his brother's legacy and the people he currently loved, which might be the daughter who has the connection with Kong and her adoptive mother, played by Iron Man 3's. Of course, you all recognize her.
Her name is Rebecca Hall, my dear.
Rebecca Hall, who I think also does a fine job. But I would also agree that not only did I not become super attached to really any of the characters, some of them seemed absolutely superfluous, like unnecessary, like given the role so they could get the star. It seems like.
Yep. Like I could not. This is, again, it's you can tell this movie is made for kids, right? Because the logic jumps here are stupendous. One of the first things that I noticed about this movie is we go from we have two extremely divergent threads. One with Millie Bobby Brown and Julian Dennison, who you might remember from Hunt for the Wilder People and Deadpool 2.
Right. I kept wanting to call him Fire Fist. What's the superhero name they keep making fun of him for?
That's, I think it's it, Fire Fist.
Is that okay?
So you've got this, and then they're with Brian Tyree Henry doing this like whole bit, breaking into Monarch to prove, or not Monarch, they're breaking into Apex, which is the company.
That's the other weird thing is, there's a new company and it's not Monarch, but it's
Apex, and Millie Bobby Brown's dad, Kyle Chandler, works for Monarch, and somehow she is able to just walk onto massively militarized property with no problem to talk to her dad after school, and then he's like, go home, and she's like, okay. What? How are you just?
But she doesn't go home. She goes to Hong Kong.
She goes to Hong Kong, and then somehow they meet up together at the end, which didn't make any sense to me. When did he get to Hong Kong?
She yelled his name in a crowd. What's not to understand?
Yeah, and how did he get to Hong Kong, or did they go home? And where were I don't. Anyways,
and before anybody thinks we're focusing on the wrong things here for a big dumb movie, I think that's where we're trying to get at the tension, because I've seen people being able to enjoy this because, oh, it's big dumb fun, and it is, but again, given this long rich history, not even just of Godzilla or King Kong, but just this apparent like new universe that they're playing off of since the 2014, like. And King of Monsters, it's almost going to be backwards because a lot of my thoughts were kind of in reference to that. I think it's still important, I guess, is the dumb thing I'm going to say after that. But
no, I like, it's just that you have these two divergent things. You've got the Millie Bobby Brown one, and then Alexander Skarsgård's going to go work for the, like, he's been, pinged by the guy who runs Apex, yeah, to basically, he's like, I believe in your Hollow Earth theory because why not? That's the only other answer in the world. So you've got these two divergent things, and at no point do I care about what happens to either of these groups of people. And I do not understand why Millie Bobby Brown 1 is able to get onto military property without any issue. It seems like there's no problems here. But then also she's listening to a podcast that's made by Brian Tyree Henry's character, that he's working at Apex, and he's talking about how all of this, like, they're
whistleblower.
Yeah, that they're doing something funky, and he knows they're doing something funky, and he doesn't believe Godzilla would ever just attack randomly, and she definitely doesn't think Godzilla would ever attack randomly, and he's like, okay, you're 15, I believe you, we're friends, let's go do this now. What?
And unfortunately, Julian Dennison, Fire Fist, it's not Fire Fist, and it's going to annoy me, is the third wheel character that I think didn't need to exist
at all.
And I love that dude.
I like
and everything.
Yeah, he was fine in this. He just didn't need to be there. And I mean, the whole that whole thread was just a really weird, unnecessary thread that lasted so long for nothing. Ostensibly, I mean,
it does seem like, because they come together at the end, and you know everything's going to be related at some point. But yes, they are divergent for the majority of the film, and you are just far more interested in one over the other, even though both don't do a lot of the legwork. Like to explain. Like, I feel like we're hard pressed to even say why Apex wanted to go to Hollow Earth. There's, I believe, an energy source at stake that they needed. I mean, we find out later why they needed it. We're going to spoil all these movies, so I'm sure that'll come out at some point. But at the beginning, it's just said that they need it to combat Godzilla, I believe, because he is rampaging throughout the film. Or he's not only rampaging, in fact, other Heartbreaker, between King of Monsters and this, he's killed all the other kaiju because he's the alpha, and there can't be more than two alpha. That's another thread that runs through the movie. There can't be two alpha.
Right. It's a very Sith thing.
Yeah. So we know that they need the power to combat Godzilla in some way. It turns out that the Millie Bobby Brown stuff is related, and I was so upset when I found out what the end of that Millie Bobby Brown storyline was, because I was so excited by it. It angered me.
how they ended it?
Well, it's because by the end, the threads that they're following, which are probably the most tenuous and kind of just there to keep them going from one scene to the next, they've been chasing this thing that's been under secret development by Apex. Turns out to be Mechagodzilla.
Right.
So on the one hand, I'm like, that stupid storyline was leading up to oh, holy crap, it's Mechagodzilla! Like,
right.
So excited at the actual answer that I hated getting to. But maybe that's emblematic of the whole process here.
I would definitely say that you're not far off for how I felt about the movie in general. Like the entire plot of this movie is just so razor thin too. It's so stupid. And then there are bits that so ostensibly what they've said is that Alexander Skarsgård has this theory that King Kong and all the Titans came from this hollow earth, the center of this earth that's basically
lost world.
It's it's the lost world, exactly. And somehow they got through because there's something there with gravity and we don't know. And so now this Apex company has built these ships that can withstand all these gravitational pulls and whatnot.
Gravity inversion, I think, is what they call it. Yeah.
Great.
Which is how his brother died. They got that far and then they hit a gravity inversion that just squished everybody.
Which is what I wish they had shown that. That would have been
shown that part. Yeah.
Yeah. But then, so they figure out how to get down there. They chase Kong. Kong shows them the way. He like innately knows that it's there. They follow him, and then
that's why they wanted to get him. They're like, Kong could show us the way,
right?
Because he's been there, right? And
which is okay. That's a stupid reason, but also
it works.
It's fine. It's dumb enough. I like it. I'm with it. But then, what kills me about it is that we find out that basically Godzilla has been going bananas over the past couple of attacks that are very targeted because he knows that they're building, like he can sense Ghidorah's like being inside of the Mechagodzilla creation. Because
I kind of didn't mind this, but yes, in King of Monsters, the big bad is Ghidorah. They kill him. His head is left over. We see that in a stinger. They've used his head because Ghidorah is kind of a telepathic. That's how he controls all the other kaiju. So they use his leftover head as a telepathic connection. So the pilot sits in Ghidorah's skull to pilot Mechagodzilla. And of course, that goes bad.
AKA, we watched Pacific Rim and thought, what if we just had him what if we do it? What if we have Ghidorah be the drift?
And honestly, I don't mind it. It's kind of cool.
It's funny. It's Pacific Rimmy. I actually also did not mind this. It's stupid, which is what I wanted, and I'm into that. But it gets to like, and this is just one of the, again, so they go through all this hullabaloo to figure out how to get down there, which when all they had to do was basically go down this pit that they've already been drilling forever and just go.
They needed the spaceships that could withstand the inversion.
Right. So there was no reason to take, the only reason they took Kong was, I guess, more to
that's true.
Like, why
in the end, like,
there's
why?
There's no reason to take Kong for any of this outside of the fact that it's like, okay, we're a tiny little ship. He's huge. He'll see if there's if there's more of him down there.
So at the beginning of the movie, he's necessary because they don't know how. But you're right. By the end, they just drove, like, they had the hole. It's not like Kong was that Kong still didn't want to go. They had to tell him where to go.
And then that's the other thing that happens is because Godzilla has been aware of this the Apex thing, but Skarsgård does not know Apex is the bad guys yet because he's stupid. They're called Apex. The bad guy's like, come on, let's go kill a thing. It's going to be fine.
Because unfortunately, the other completely wasted character and actor, unfortunately, is Aisa Gonzalez from, you might remember her from Baby Driver and such other things that you might have enjoyed more than Baby Driver, but always fun to watch. And here is literally, like, criminally underused, not as much as one other actor.
Demian Bashir?
Probably yes, but no, Lance Reddick gets literally one scene and one sentence.
Yeah, never.
Why would you do that to Lance Reddick?
Yeah, you can't do that to Lance Reddick. That should be illegal.
But yeah, she is there as the Apex person who is like, she has a couple lines, and she's the suit, she's the lawyer from Jurassic Park, the one. Well, I guess that in that one, they both die. But she's there to turn at the last second when they discover the power source. And for some reason, Rebecca Hall's like, you can't take the power source. And she's like, actually, we can. And I'm like, she's right. Like, they just took it immediately. I mean, also, I don't know why it's bad, but.
Right. No, yeah. Nothing. You're like, they're not necessarily even mining this whole thing right now. They're just getting that one piece. And also, when they took the piece out, they did it with this little like a spider robot. I don't know. I mentioned this to Beth too. I was just dying laughing about this. For some reason, the way they shot the scene, they're all like, their ships are behind them. They come running off the ship to put down the drone, and then they back up, and then the drone goes out and does things. And I'm like, why did they even do that? Why didn't they just step off the ship and just put the thing down?
How does a drone work anyway?
Yeah, like you don't have to escort it. That's the whole point of it. What are you doing? But then so they go down, and they're in Hollow Earth with Kong, and Kong has now found an axe that is clearly made from one of
the power source material, or can channel it.
Well, it's made from Godzilla's one of his Stegosaurus thingies and like a bone.
Oh, I didn't catch that.
Oh, yeah,
that's kind of cool.
Yeah, it's totally. Absolutely. That's why when Godzilla blows his power at him, his stuff, he can kind of absorb it.
It absorbs it.
Yeah.
Actually, you know what? I'll say overall, I didn't mind the lore, the universe they've created.
This was all super fun. The weird gravity wells and stuff.
Yeah, the ancient rivalry. Yeah, I was actually cool with that.
It's totally obnoxious, and I have no problem with any of that. And if they had focused more on the actual lore, like instead of any of the stupid things, like I guess, like, I love the idea of Mechagodzilla, and I don't mind the idea that Godzilla somehow innately knows that they have chunks of his power.
That's where we were going. Yeah, he could sense Ghidorah's energy.
Right.
Behind
Well, and that's the thing. Okay, right. And so this is the other part that was so dumb to me about the whole thing, is that Godzilla then, normally when he does his roar of fire, blue fire, he does it straight up. But not this time. No. Now he does it down to the ground and just bores a hole through the earth into this new hollow earth. So now there's right in the middle of like Tokyo. He's like, I'm done. It's here.
Might be Hong Kong.
Maybe they were they might have been Hong Kong. I don't know. They were in a major city, and he just, which again, I'm not complaining about them destroying whatever major city it is. It's more you guys went down a giant hole, didn't know where to go, even though all you had to do was go through the hole, and then he just had to drill. So basically, you could have just kept drilling. You just keep going down, and eventually you would have found it. Good job, guys.
And you know what the interesting thing is? I don't have a problem with a lot of the end results or the things that you're saying. It's just that
it took forever to get there, man.
Well, it took forever to get there while not explaining any of it.
Yeah,
it's kind of the strange thing, and I think why
it took forever to say nothing.
Obviously, yes, and this is going to be a taste issue. Sometimes it's enough for some people, and sometimes it's not enough. I don't think they did quite enough for that, and I'll say one more thing about why I might have liked King of Monsters more than some other people. I think for all its issues, I think it did do at the very least enough of that legwork to explain some of those points in the film. Like, there were 2 points back to back in Godzilla vs. Kong where one, yes, they're in the Hollow Earth, and at some point, I don't know if they do anything or it's just for some reason, probably having to do with Godzilla up there going off and shooting his dealie. No, actually it wasn't, because the line I wrote down here, Rebecca Hall, the stuff starts to glow blue. It's when he puts the axe back into its spot, it kind of sets stuff off.
Yes.
And then she says it's charging from the core. And I'm like, okay, but then it's not followed up with so this.
What does that mean?
Because there's no actual and this means this. So this, and then right after that, we cut back to the other thread that hasn't yet, I don't think, resulted in Mechagodzilla. And Millie Bobby Brown, they pop up inside of a room out of a grate, and there's something happening on a computer screen, and she says, "We've got to try and stop this." And there's no follow-up. There's no because, which we get that it's an evil corporation. That's kind of the thing. We expect it, but it hasn't got necessarily that far yet. And even if it had, why? Why do you have to just one more line? Why it's charging from the core, so we have to stop this because, and it's not there. It's not there throughout the entire film. So
right, and this is and the problem is that it's not that you can't infer the answers. It's just that this is show don't tell situation, but you're also not showing anything. You're making a statement. We need to do this, and then you show nothing about any of it. Like,
and how do you do it? Because you've showed so much. I mean, I've been watching it for over 2 hours, right? Like, it must have, you showed me something.
Right. And I
what
think,
was it?
And ultimately, yeah, no, I think you hit the nail on the head. That's what I could not get behind. Like, I did enjoy, like I said, I enjoyed the little girl, her interactions with Kong and that relationship. I think that's fun. I like the idea that she's a native to Skull Island and she innately can kind of speak with him, even though, and I love that she's
makes sense also. Yeah,
I love that they give her a hearing issue so that the noise he makes is not impactful to her, so she has no fear of that. But so many other people are just wasted, and there's dialogue choices, and then again plot things that I'm not saying they're holes, but they're just like they're
I think you have to have like there needs to be a thing to exist to have a hole in, it's like you can't have a donut hole. Wait, no, this isn't working. It relates back to donuts somehow.
Yeah,
it always does.
I would like to eat them, and they're good. But sometimes
that's it.
You eat a bad donut, and then that's Godzilla versus Kong.
You got to have a donut to have a hole first, and there's not a lot of donut here.
And that is getting knuckle tattooed. Gotta have a donut to have a hole first.
What'd you think about the third act? What'd you think about the big fight between Mechagodzilla and Kong and Godzilla?
Yeah, I loved it. I was on the roller coaster for that one. That was super fun.
I unreservedly love it.
Yeah,
I thought it was great.
It was perfect. I actually loved the Kong Godzilla fight that we
that's true, because
so
they're at each other's throats for the whole movie, and they have to team up against Mecha at the end. But yes,
and actually all of the stuff between them in general, I actually really enjoyed. I loved the final fight between them before they have to team up, where Godzilla has kind of roundly now decidedly beaten Kong. Kong is done. And I love that Godzilla does the I could kill you, but I'm not. I respect that you also exist and whatever.
Or something, yeah.
And I don't know what the deal was. It was not he's not Ivan Drago. That's all I know. But I love that fight. And then Mechagodzilla, I absolutely gave a little bit of a cheer when the drift guy, who was also, by the way, supposed to be the son of Ken Watanabe's character from the other movies.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I don't know if you knew
Didn't
that.
Catch that.
Yeah,
the pilot in the Ghidorah skull.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, sure.
I love that the Ghidorah skull comes alive, and that it takes over Mechagodzilla and kills. Yes,
that's fine.
That is top tier film making. That's what I want out of my Godzilla movie right there. And I think that the bummer with that is that they're not leaning into the silliness of that enough, I want a little more mad science, I guess.
Sure. Strangely enough, also, yes, very reserved for the franchise in general over the years.
Give me more references to Planet X,
All right. Well, I think I'm spent. I would still say, even before I gave it any stars, maybe check it out. It's too long, the bad stuff we talked about takes up probably the majority of the film. So at the end, it's kind of like the balance is off. The good to bad isn't quite make it worth it. But for what is good, yeah, maybe look up that final battle, or I don't know, somebody do an Amberg edit where it's just the monsters.
Look, all I gotta say, I guess, really is, and this is the second time in as many shows I think that I've had to reference this. It's a movie that just doesn't earn its runtime. That's the problem. It needed some editing, or it needed some extra clarity with just a little bit of dialogue, like you said.
But I think we're also past that point. There is no such Godzilla versus Kong blockbuster in this day and age that comes out at a cool 90 that, you know, you leave the theater thinking that was fun. You know, it's not going to happen anymore.
And I think that's a real shame, you know, because I think you can make a really compelling film in that amount of time that has the big budget action that they people want to see, that fit this whole franchise. I don't think every monster movie needs to be this in-depth character study or you know, this commentary on society's use of nuclear weapons. Like yeah, you can throw that stuff in there, no question about it, but I think you can also still have a super fun movie that fits in a franchise like this in 90 minutes and go, that was cool.
Yeah. So 90 stars, actually.
Oh,
speaking of minutes.
Yeah, out of 93.
Excellent. So tally those up wherever you tally those up, and email us at podcast@bookclubformovies.com, and Facebook and Twitter or whatever.
Or whatever. I don't know.
We'll come back to some of this, I'm sure. Like I said, I skipped a lot of movies. I have the whole Millennium Era. I'm going to do Shin Godzilla still. But it might all take place after the month of July because, get this, you'll never believe it, but I'm going to say the truth. Matt has given me the entire month of July, my birthday month even, doxed, to devote our weekly shows here to action movies. And
I'm excited.
Very possibly from that list I already posted on Letterboxd, the list I've talked about a million times before. But I am still making my way through that. I stopped for all the Godzilla films. But Matt is going to commanded me.
I did.
To do a slate of at least 4. I'm guessing there's got to be maybe 4 weeks here in July.
You know, we can go.
We're not in July yet, so I don't know why is that.
July is just around the corner.
Of action movies. So almost perfectly, in fact, in name even, we narrowed it down to the first being, in fact, I got to look up the year for this because there have apparently been many films by this title.
1991?
I want to say even Seagal did a recent The Perfect Weapon, but it's not that one. It is the Jeff Speakman classic from 1991.
Nice. Also
called The Perfect Weapon. And we got here like because you were like, hey, I'm thinking we should do this month thing, and you're like, you also want to watch The Night Comes for Us, which is very different.
Yes.
But you thought we could roll it into this month long thing, and I of course agreed under duress. And we arrived at The Perfect Weapon because you had heard of it somehow before. It is Jeff Speakman's, I think.
It was on
film.
It was on Showtime, baby, all the time.
Oh, was it? Okay.
Yeah, this was.
All right, so
okay. So I'm going to give you a brief. Do you want me to give you my brief action movie history here?
I kind of want to save it because
okay.
I haven't seen the movie myself, and who knows, by the time I have, maybe we don't have a ton to talk about. But I'm excited to watch it. It made my list because he has, of course, an Art of Action episode over on Scott Adkins' YouTube. So, in fact, Jeff Speakman, I'm sure I'll talk about this, also still in the martial arts business, I'll say, has a long story. Anyway, I'm excited to start, I think, just so appropriately with that movie, The Perfect Weapon, the 1991 The Perfect Weapon. And also as a rest of the show, probably going to do that movie that kind of got this all started for you, the Joe Taslim, Iko Uwais, Timo, I've never heard his name said, but I'm going to say it myself, Tajanti, Indonesian, I'm guessing probably director who made these Indonesian movies, but The Night Comes for Us is the other movie that will be talked about in some form or another. So come back next week for those 2 movies minimum, and after that I'll have the entire month of July laid out, and I'll be able to tell you. I'm going to look at a few things and decide.
I can't wait, man.
Some Jackie Chan's on there, I'm sure. Oof. Or at least of that era.
The Chan Man.
I think I want to get representative. I might go all the way back, probably not with a King Hu, but maybe I forgot his name. The other director kind of from that era that you hear about.
Tiger. Tiger.
Uppercut.
Uppercut.
No, he did
Yoga.
Dirty Ho. You've
Flint.
probably heard of. And the 36th. In fact, I might be giving this away, but we'll probably do the 36th Chamber of Shaolin. Chi Lang Lu. So come back for the whole entire month of July to check those out. And I think we'll call it for this one. How about? We've probably done enough talking.
Enough, damn it. Oh, talking. Okay. Well, I guess so. Fine. Bye.
Bye.